Hello, everyone. Let's welcome our next speaker, Mark Sage. He's the Executive Director at AR for Enterprise Alliance. Mark is the Executive Director at Augmented Reality for Enterprise Alliance. The area is a membership-funded alliance helping to accelerate the adoption of augmented reality through a comprehensive ecosystem. Today, he'll share his insights on status of the enterprise augmented reality ecosystem and what can we do to improve it. All over to you, Mark.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody. As Noah said, my name is Mark Sage. I'm really excited to be here. Yes, I'm going to talk about enterprise AR. So, I know you guys have been having lots of presentations about digital twins. I believe, and I know through my work of being the executive director for the area over a number of years, that these two technologies really do sit closely together. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's happening in enterprise AR. I'm really focused on what we can do to improve it, as the title says. Okay, so let's get started. Actually, AR has been around for a long time. This is a picture of one of the founders from Boeing. Everyone would know Boeing. Back in 1989, it's a very rudimental headset, and he's actually looking to use AR to help him develop and overcome some of the problems that you have when you're wiring in an aircraft. You may think that's not very relevant to the oil and gas industry or even to AR, but when you come back and to talk about what Boeing are doing now, they're still using this technology and really driving some business change within their organization. They can't have a presentation without some graphs, and this one is the one from Gartner. So basically looking at this movement of emerging technologies from this innovation trigger, peak of inflated expectation, trough of disillusionment. I just want to quickly take you on the journey of what's happened with augmented reality. As you can see this, sorry, go back a bit. Sorry, I can't quite see my screen, so bear with me a sec. Let me just move this. Okay, thank you, that's better. So basically, AR started in 2004 to hit the Gartner hype cycle curve, which seems a long time ago, as you can imagine. Then suddenly in 2007, it completely dropped off, which is still, I can't get an answer from Gartner of why that happened. Came back again in 2010, where it entered the peak of inflated expectations. So this is where there's more talk than actual action happening. For a number of years, we were in that sort of gap and then moved into this trough of disillusionment. And many of the new emerging technologies come into this bit. As I said, there's probably more talk, little action, and actually companies, speakers, people are just thinking this technology is not going to make it. This is not going to be something that we can actually use. This carried on, and this one's a little bit more detailed into 2018, as we carried on in that trough of disillusionment. But it's amazing to say that in 2019, actually, Gartner took it out of the hype cycle curve and put it into a more mature technology. Now, let's be 100% clear. It doesn't mean that AR is a mature technology now, but it's certainly not something which is emerging and people are talking about. There are, and I'm going to be going through a number of really important and key use cases that we see companies actively doing today and creating a really good ROI. Similarly, the digital twin process has gone through this as well. So it's actually interesting to compare the two technologies. Whilst they are different, and we know that, and you would be experts in it, but it's really interesting to see that this digital twin is also out of this hype cycle. One of the things that we've been doing within the area is looking at the whole digital transformation journey. So we have a research capability, and one of the interesting research projects that we've done, it's about merging IoT, AI, and AR. And it's very interesting now how companies are bringing together these technologies. Previously, I would say, from my experience, they were focusing just on one of them. We're focused on IoT and getting the data. We're focusing on AR, trying to display it. Actually, where the real benefit comes from organizations is where they bring this together with that digital twin to be able to have that digital footprint of your actual real world. Yeah, AR, it's been exciting. It's been around for a long time. There's also an amazing amount of hype that goes on with these new technologies. And I always chuckle to myself of looking at some of the amazing numbers that the analysts come up with. And hopefully there's not too many analysts on the presentation today. But actually, we are seeing definitely a movement towards more companies successfully deploying it. And what I focus on, or what the area focuses on, is just the enterprise AR space. And it's really about solving those complex business problems and streamlining operations. Let's dig into that a little bit more. One of the things that companies are actively doing, and I'll show you some examples in a second, they are improving their performance. Basically, AR is about saving money, or the enterprise AR is more about saving money than making money. It's about getting the complex, relevant, up-to-date information to the workers when they need it. There's lots of examples of people and the end users, workers trying to find the information either on pieces of paper or on PCs and things like that. It's not the easiest and greatest way, especially when you're thinking about taking 2D data when actually the world we live in is 3D data. So AR is really helping with that. One of the big use cases, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in a second, is around resource management. And certainly the COVID pandemic that we've all been through was a good example of how companies were using AR to manage their resources more effectively. And I'll talk a little bit more detail about that use case in a second. And what we're seeing also is a growing trend towards real-time compliance, being able to complete the task correctly first time, especially in regulated industries, and have that information captured. So if it's needed either by the regulator or if something goes wrong, you can get that information quickly and effectively. So again, at the highest level, it's all about improving the performance within an organization, which leads to increased efficiency. So we're seeing many opportunities to reduce time, to minimize the error, and lowering costs. And I'm going to jump on now into a few more actual use cases. So basically, AR in the enterprise space is happening already, and there's a number of companies that are successfully deploying the technology. How do I know this? Well, as we said at the top, the organization I lead is called the AR for Enterprise Alliance. But we're actually a part of a bigger group, the Object Management Group, which includes a digital twin. It includes IoT, responsible computing, and a few other organizations and standards organizations. So I moved the area into this about a year ago to really create these synergies and help these technologies come together, because ultimately it's about solving business problems, which I've mentioned on numerous times already. Just a bit more detail, the area, AR for Enterprise Alliance, as you can see, is a global membership-funded, not-for-profit alliance. We're really there to help the ecosystem by accelerating adoption of AR. So basically, in terms of our members, they're in 3 different segments. They're the companies that are deploying the technology, and they're in all sorts of industries, all sorts of different companies, often about getting creating those efficiencies. We have a bigger group of the provider of the technology, both the hardware and the software. And then our third group are kind of a set of non-commercial organizations, government agencies, research institutes, universities, and standards organizations as well. So it's really about bringing these organizations together to learn from, to develop best practice, and really help drive the ecosystem. Okay, as I promised before, let's jump into some actual use cases here. We've got 6 here at a high level. We're looking at a number of different key use cases. I'm going to drop into a little bit more detail into these. But what I want to emphasize in the red is the actual savings that these companies are making. This is from a really useful and interesting report, Why Every Organization Needs an Augmented Reality, which was a combination of PTC, one of the area members, Harvard, and also the area members as well. Okay, let's dive into a little bit more detail. I mentioned before about remote assistance. This is something that's really taken off since the COVID times. As you can imagine, in multiple different industries, oil and gas, manufacturing, basically the people were not allowed to be in the factory or wherever they were. But if something goes wrong, then you have a problem. The downtime can really cause problems for the organization. People in the on the shop floor may not be able to fix the problem, and people were not allowed to travel to that to fix it as well. So remote assistance is a very simple idea. Basically, you're just be able to call an expert, anybody, anywhere in the world, and use AR to be able to show them what the problem is, and what they can do to overcome it. And guys, it's not rocket science, but being able to carefully and clearly go through a step-by-step guide by digitally overlaying the content on top of it has become a very useful tool. And actually, AR exploded in that period of time. I think what's interesting from my perspective is that we weren't able to continue with that, and some companies have gone back to the old ways, which I think is a really interesting part as well. Anyway, let's move on into the manufacturing and assembly area. A number of different use cases. Again, that reduction in errors, increasing completion time, actually upskilling the operatives as well. That's something we see a lot with AR. You can use the wearable devices or the tablets or even projection AR to take people that haven't completed the task before, but by putting or overlaying the steps, can very quickly upskill them and train them. I mentioned at the start about Boeing and the work that they did. This image in the bottom left is actually how they now visualize the wiring within an aircraft. They're using the combination of a product or a wearable called the HoloLens from Microsoft. They've also created some very interesting ways of pinpointing where the wires are. Historically, they used to have to physically mock this up, and then they would try and take kind of wires and physically put them, changing the wire and set up and things like that. And of course, every time they did that, they had to then physically put that back to where the actual aircraft is so they could change it again. Very time consuming, a very skilled activity. Now they're using, as I said, the HoloLens, and they can already show from some studies, they call them theory studies, but they're moving on and actually able to develop this. So around about 90% improvement of first time quality and 30% saving in doing the entire job. So this has been a really great saving for Boeing, and they continue to be one of the leaders in the space and driving forward the kind of technology. Inspection is another big use case. The example here is showing an amazing saving, a 96% saving. So this is focusing on a company called Newport News Shipbuilding, who build those massive aircraft carriers that you probably would have seen on Top Gun. Okay, so this is where the aircraft land. Basically, it takes between 7 and 9 years to build one of those. They're built in kind of smaller elements and brought together. Historically, they would have to, when one of the rooms or one of the buildings is completed, they would use paper and skilled people to look at that and say, right, okay, is this what it should be? Can I take this 2D diagram and overlay it or look up at it? And has that actually been delivered in the right place? So very difficult, shows a lot of errors. It used to take them up to, I think it's 36 hours. Now they're using AR, they're using tablets. They're able to very quickly display and or move the tablets, put them into the area, look it through the tablet, see where the thing should be. It's overlaying onto the real world, and they've been able to reduce their inspection time down to 90 minutes or 96% saving. It's not rocket science. It's not anything which is kind of revolutionary, but those kind of savings make a big difference to an organization who spend 7 to 9 years. But for any organization, those kind of savings are really great. So inspection use cases is another important one. We look at maintenance and repair. And again, not one of the questions I often get asked is say, hey, Mark, which industry is leading this in AR? And I say, actually, it has nothing to do with the industry. It's often about the use case. So it could be oil and gas, it could be all sorts of different industries, but maintenance repair continues to be a really strong use case. Here's an example from Bosch. Bosch do car maintenance and car fixing. With the amount of new cars that are coming in from electric cars and different manufacturers, it's really difficult to continue to train their staff and give them the information for a whole bunch of new kind of cars that come in. So they're using a combination again of tablets and wearable devices, and it's allowed them to speed up by 15% on each step that they do when they're fixing or maintaining a car. That's for each step. They can get the information, it can overlay them, they can do it much quicker. They may be skilled enough to do it, but most of the time they have to think about or go back to a diagram or to some sort of instruction pad to be able to know what to do. So again, some amazing savings, some amazing kind of step-by-step activities, and really upskilling the staff to be able to maintain these cars much more quickly and effectively. I think one of the things I've learned by doing this role for a long time is we don't talk enough about the kind of case studies and use cases and the success stories. So one of the things I ask for everybody out there, if you've successfully deployed the technology or if you're a provider that's helping do this, let's talk about it. Please feel free to contact me, mark@thearea.org. I know there's lots of other channels as well. And I know this event has lots of different kind of case studies, but we need more. And one of the things that we've created within the area is an ROI calculator, return on investment calculator, for a number of specific use cases. But again, my ask is let's just tell the world about it, because there's amazing things being done, there's some real benefits, and we're able to deploy. Just going back to focus on the area to give you an idea of how we're trying to help the ecosystem. And we deliver on what we call our 4 strategic pillars. So the first one is about delivering thought leadership. It's the kind of information business decision makers like yourself need. So we focus very much on telling about what problems can be solved. So the use cases, as I mentioned just previously, the case studies, actual companies that are deploying this technology. We explain about the technology itself, but most importantly about the ROI. And we're doing that in multiple ways, through webinars, through events, through what we call fireside chats, 3 to 4 questions in a 10 to 15 minute video chat. So we're doing lots on that. It's lots about networking. You can see the different area members, we're bringing them together really to learn from each other, to share those experiences, to develop that best practice. And that's been really effective at helping companies be more quicker and not have the challenges that other companies have done because they've learned from their experiences. In all of our technologies, both digital twin, AR, and AI to a certain extent, we just don't have enough skilled workers. So we're focusing really hard on working with the educational organizations, universities, and things like that to close that AR skills gap. We're helping them define what the next set of AR courses should look like, offering guest lectures from our members, organizing out placements. And we've recently done a student reward where we're asking them to propose different research projects, and we'll help fund that and provide mentors and things like that. And then finally, it's all about reducing barriers to adoption. What we find across the world is that many companies are doing a little AR project. They may have got a wearable or 2, they may have got some software, but it gets stuck in what we call pilot purgatory. So we're focusing on helping companies overcome those challenges. One of the ways we're doing that is by helping them understand the use cases and going into a bit more detail. So this is freely available on the area website, and there'll be a bunch of different, I think there's 11 use cases that we've defined there. We're creating a set of requirements for the industry, ranging from that use case right the way down to low-level things like connectivity, integration, authoring, and such like. And we're going to be making this available to the ecosystem hopefully in the next few weeks. We've created a whole bunch of content, anything from these infographics on safety and security, often challenges when deploying AR, and let's be honest, to a certain extent, can be challenges for deploying digital twin. And I think the combination of these technologies, do have their challenges. So we need to work together to help educate and overcome these challenges, especially when you think about the IT security team or the safety managers and things like that, that may not be so used to this type of technology. So we're creating this content to help them understand and overcome it. Focusing on the security side, we've created this Zero Trust for AR infographic, nice and simple, but it really just helped them understand of how AR and the Zero Trust kind of principles can work together. One of the things we found very useful is this, what we call a safety playbook. So it's really, again, focusing on the safety managers and helping them understand some of the challenges. So we focus a lot on using AR, well, before they start to use AR, whilst they're using AR and afterwards. So it could be anything from a kind of a checklist to best practice. You know, we suggest and recommend that if someone walks forward really quickly using an AR wearable device or a tablet, that the screen should go off, you know, the overlay should go off, so that people are really focusing on what they're doing. And then afterwards, so things like cleaning the devices and not to jump in a car straight away afterwards. Here's an example of kind of a risk assessment that we've created to help people successfully deploy the technology. And then finally, I just want to touch on some of the research that we're doing. So it's a very simple process. We say to the area members every 6 months, what would you like to research? What information would you find useful and that you can then do something with? Okay, it's very much applied research. So every 6 months, they make a proposal. We then have a meeting where they explain the research, and then the members get to vote. And whichever research gets the most votes, the area then pays for and delivers this research. And we've been doing this for a while. We're just on our 12th research project. And I'm always kind of thrilled and excited about the range of different research that we've kind of created. So we've started off with security, and we've got a security report. I mentioned the ROI calculator. The third one was around safety and human factors. I often call it the gotcha research. It's the kind of issues that you may not know about. So things like, you know, if you're in a bright environment, a noisy environment, a dark environment, that may have an impact on the AR solution. We have ones on barriers to adoption, which is focused very much more on the worker acceptance, and something that can often be overlooked when it comes to deploying AR. You know, you need the end workers to be bought into the project right from the very start and be solving their problems. I mentioned the IoT, AI, and AR research, which is really a kind of a maturity model. We've done more of a technology one on web AR as well. So looking at web browser kind of technology to deliver the end solution. We've done a really interesting one. We've taken really big 3D models that are often too big to fit on an AR device. So that could be CAD models, BIM diagrams, point clouds, anything like that. And we use 6 different tool chains to reduce the size and put it onto 4 different platforms, including the HoloLens and the iPad. And really it's helping kind of business leaders understand what can be done, what kind of fidelity comes out of these 3D models and things like that. And the last couple, we've got the Find AR, which is basically a search engine. You know, there's lots of research out there, but it's often difficult to find. So this is a way of a dedicated enterprise AR search engine. And then one on 5G and AR as well. We've just finished one on mapping 3D solutions. So often, you know, I like to have layering use cases. So if it's been AR has been used for one use case, can we do another one? An obvious one on that is being able to help somebody get to where the problem is through a mapping solution using AR. And then after that, they can use step-by-step or maintenance to, or a AR maintenance use case to solve the business problem there. And then we've just done one on using AR in very dexterous work. Sorry, I will struggle to say that. But basically, you know, AR works really great when you say, like, move this 90 degrees, press this button, do this. But what happens if you need to use your hands a little bit more? And we've done quite a bit of work in the composite area. And then finally, the last piece of research we're actually working on at the moment is that when it comes to the deployment of these devices, organizations now tend to buy one and have multiple users using them. So, you know, there's some issues with that from a security perspective. What kind of information have they collected? And the single sign-on is often a challenge for organizations. So for the first time, we're potentially building some open source code to allow everybody to access the device much quicker, sign on, and actually use it without having to kind of wipe it each time a new user uses it. Okay, I think that's spot on time, I'm hoping. I'm going to stop sharing now. Hopefully that gives you some really good ideas of what's happening. I know it's not completely digital twin. I am a huge fan of the work that digital twin can do for us as organizations. I'm also really interested in how these things can work together. So I'm really happy if there's any questions.
Sure, Mark. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was a great, insightful details. Let's see how many questions we've got. So, so since we receive a questions, we have one question that how accessible is the area membership for smaller technology firms who can significantly benefit from the collaboration?
Yeah, great question, and something we've identified very early. So we have a startup package where our definition of a startup is less than $1 million US dollars turnover, less than 10 staff, less 3 years trading. And to be honest, the 3 years trading can be a discussion as well, because many companies have kind of had a company they're moving into this space. And that's 1,500 US dollars. It allows them to basically come to all of the different area events. We don't treat them any differently to what we would do an ExxonMobil or a Boeing or a Magic Leap. The whole idea is that everybody learns from the kind of ecosystem and everyone develops that best practice. And actually, I can say at least 4 or 5 of our area members have been snapped up by bigger companies. And I have to say, that's not the kind of area enabling that. They do their own due diligence. But you know, it's definitely a trend where a lot of the interesting and startups are doing some amazing stuff, being looked at by these bigger companies as well. So hopefully that helps. You know, it's 1,500 for the startups, depending on that criteria, and they get the same benefits as anyone else within the area.
Thanks. That's a great question and great answer on this. How important is AR to digital twin and vice versa?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question. And so we have a sister organization, the Digital Twin. Listen, I'm a pretty simple guy. You know, I think the digital twin, as we all know, and you're all experts in it, creates that digital footprint or that digital match of what the real world's doing. But somehow you need to use that content. You need to visualize it. So this is where I think AR comes in. If we're really brutal about it, you can say AR is just a display of digital content. So there's a whole bunch of use cases where we already see our members using it. Anything from using visualization techniques from kind of space planning to, you know, being able to design using immersive technology or design using AR to build using a combination of digital twin and AR, but then also to maintain and to decommission as well. So, you know, I think we need to come together more, but in my eyes, it really is about able to display the information so you can do something very tangible, something very quickly with the information that you have in your digital twin.
Gotcha. So how will augmented reality impact the healthcare industry?
Yeah, massive already, to be perfectly honest. There's a number of great use cases. There was one on, if you remember, the kind of 6, I think it was, different use cases where, and this one makes me shiver a little bit, but AR was being used to overlay where your veins are, so making it easier to do injections and find the right kind of veins, but ranging through to helping surgeons to operate or practice operate or putting that information over the top, including being able to connect with an expert if you're kind of new or you have something really complicated. Also setting up different theaters and things like that. AR can be used to help do that really quickly. And then there's even some basic ones about the actual maintenance of equipment and things like that. So yeah, I see the healthcare being one of the big key areas that AR will continue to drive.
Gotcha. And apart from all this, one question that I would like to ask, that how do you get started with AI?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's there's lots of different devices, there's lots of different wearables out there, but actually anybody can do something with AR, probably with the device they have in their pocket or may even be looking at now. You know, the mobile phone is a great way to get started. There's lots of different tools you can download now and start to visualize things. And what we tend to see within organizations is either a kind of a bottom-up approach where people start to demonstrate and show the benefit of AR. But then you do need a top-down approach where you need to get buy-in from the stakeholders, like any real change management program. But start things really simple, show the benefits of it. If you have a digital twin already, start to visualize parts of that, start to think about how you can enable that, again, through tablets, through mobile devices, and then, you know, moving on to wearables and stuff like that.
Yeah, and what is the biggest challenge do you see when it comes to the big enterprise accounts and the change management?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a combination of things. It's interesting. You speak to these big organizations. Security is often one of the bigger challenges. I mentioned about change management or getting the workers involved. Yeah, the stakeholders want to see the ROI real quick. So one of the things that we do a lot of work on is just reminding companies that you need to measure the process before you start to use AR, because then you can compare what it was like previously. I know it sounds silly, but a lot of companies jump into the AR, start showing some benefits, but haven't measured what they do previously. You know, safety, there's a whole bunch of things, IT, getting IT, connectivity and stuff like that. But we've done a lot of work on developing a process just to help companies understand the kind of steps they need to do, what other kind of assets like a digital twin they can utilize. And once they go through a well thought out and structured project, then, you know, there's a bigger chance they're going to be successful. It still comes with challenges, but I think, you know, doing that upfront work really helps rather than just jumping in and saying, hey, listen, just let's do some stuff with AR.
Yeah, fair enough. We have a question. It's a general question. How well supported are the AR headsets? Because of how little messaging there is from Microsoft on the HoloLens 2, there is a lot of hesitancy to invest in a large amount of money into those expensive headsets and their softwares.
Yeah, and I think it's a valid point. You know, the messages coming out from Microsoft at the moment, I think it's fair to say, is a little bit mixed. There are some other amazing wearable device companies out there. You've probably seen on my slide, you know, the area has a bunch of them. I think, you know, we need to be careful. We're solving business problems, so we have to have the right tools. So that may be a AR headset. It could be assisted reality. So this is, you know, often termed as a tablet on your head. The likes of RealWear and Vuzix and other companies offer this as a solution. And as I mentioned before, it could be, you know, just using tablets and mobile phones. So I think there's still work to be done on the AR headsets. If you've experienced them, you know, they do amazing things, able to see and visualize in 3D and look around your CAD models or whatever it is, your digital twin. But, you know, the cost of them is high, and it's often difficult to get them into the organization. So companies that have done that have focused on a particular use case, been pinpoint focused on that, and that's really helped. And yeah, you know, we need to have those multiple use cases so the device cost of ownership of the device comes down as well. So again, focus on solving real business problems, show the benefits of these devices, and, you know, if you have a return on investment, measure that, and then that should allow you to invest more in these devices. But it's still pretty new. It'd be interesting to see what our friends at Apple announce in the next few days. There's lots of talk of that being probably a kind of a VR device would pass through as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what actually happens there.
Yeah. Okay. So these were the questions that we had from attendees, and thank you so much for sharing the insights with us. It was great to hear all of your case studies and story here. Much appreciated. So I would suggest all attendees to, you know, connect with you directly via chat option, and you'll be happy to answer all the questions, I believe. So thank you so much for your time today. You have a lovely day ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Keep going. And thank you, Noah, for the opportunity, and have a great rest of your event.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.